For decades, Burkina Faso has been seen as one of the world's poorest nations, a landlocked country where limited infrastructure has often slowed economic growth and reinforced the belief that large-scale development projects were simply beyond reach. International headlines have frequently focused on security challenges, political instability, and humanitarian concerns, leaving little room for stories about ambition, engineering, or national transformation. But today, something extraordinary is unfolding across the dry plains between Ouagadougou and Bobo-Dioulasso. Hundreds of machines are carving a new path across more than 330 kilometers of land. Surveyors, engineers, heavy equipment operators, and construction crews are working on what could become the most ambitious road infrastructure project in Burkina Faso's modern history. More than just another highway, this expressway represents a bold statement about self-reliance, national confidence, and the country's vision for its future. Supporters describe it as proof that Burkina Faso is entering a new era, one in which major infrastructure can be planned, financed, and managed with a stronger emphasis on domestic leadership. Critics, however, argue that the real test has only just begun. Clearing land is one thing. Delivering a durable, high-quality expressway that serves millions of people for decades is something entirely different. So, what is really happening behind this project? How large is the expressway? Where's the money coming from? What exactly is Faso Mêbo, and why has it become such an important symbol of Burkina Faso's development strategy? Most importantly, could this project reshape not only transportation, but also the country's economic future and its place within West Africa? In today's report, we will separate facts from speculation as we explore the scale of the project, examine its financing, understand the role of President Ibrahim Traore's administration, and analyze both the opportunities and the challenges that lie ahead. By the end of this story, you'll have a clearer picture of why this expressway is attracting attention far beyond Burkina Faso's borders. If you enjoy discovering the real stories behind Africa's transformation, don't forget to subscribe and join us as we continue exploring the continent's biggest infrastructure projects, economic changes, and remarkable journeys towards self-development. The vision sounded ambitious from the very beginning. A modern expressway stretching approximately 332 kilometers across Burkina Faso, linking the nation's political capital with its economic heart, was something few people believed would move beyond the planning stage. Yet on December 16th, 2025, that vision officially entered reality as construction work was launched under the Faso Mêbo initiative. The route will connect Ouagadougou, the country's administrative and political center, with Bobo-Dioulasso, Burkina Faso's second largest city and one of its most important commercial and industrial hubs. For decades, these two cities have relied on an existing national highway that carries thousands of passenger vehicles and freight trucks every week. While that road has played a vital role in connecting the country, growing traffic and increasing economic activity have placed significant pressure on the aging transport corridor. The new expressway is designed to change that reality. According to official plans, it will feature 2 carriageways with 4 lanes in each direction, making it the first expressway of its kind in Burkina Faso. More than simply increasing road capacity, the project is intended to improve safety, reduce congestion, and create a faster and more reliable transportation corridor between the country's 2 most important urban centers. However, one of the biggest misconceptions surrounding the project involves its construction progress. Shortly after work began, reports highlighted that more than 230 kilometers of the planned corridor had already been cleared. While this impressive pace attracted widespread attention, it is important to understand what those numbers actually represent. Land clearing is only the first stage of a highway project. Before engineers can begin laying pavement, construction teams must remove vegetation, prepare access routes, conduct detailed surveys, stabilize the ground, and complete extensive earthworks. Only after these essential preparations can workers begin building drainage systems, bridges, road foundations, and the final pavement structure. In other words, the rapid clearing of the corridor demonstrated effective organization and strong mobilization during the project's opening phase, but it did not mean that 70% of the expressway itself had already been completed. The most technically demanding and expensive phases still lie ahead, requiring engineering precision, sustained financial support, and careful project management over an extended period. Understanding this distinction is essential because it allows us to appreciate both the remarkable early progress and the enormous amount of work that remains before vehicles can eventually travel along Burkina Faso's first modern expressway. One of the defining characteristics of Burkina Faso's first expressway is not only its size, but also the philosophy behind its construction. The project is being carried out under the Faso Mêbo initiative, a national program that emphasizes stronger domestic leadership in developing critical infrastructure. Instead of relying primarily on foreign financing and management, Burkina Faso is seeking to place its own institutions, engineers, and workforce at the center of one of the country's most ambitious development projects. For many supporters, Faso Mêbo represents more than a construction program. It symbolizes a growing determination to strengthen national capacity and reduce long-term dependence on outside assistance. The goal is not simply to build a modern highway, but also to develop the technical experience needed for future infrastructure projects across the country. This is why images from the construction site often feature local engineers, surveyors, heavy equipment operators, and construction workers. Every stage of the project provides valuable experience for professionals who may later lead new highways, bridges, and industrial developments. In this sense, the expressway is becoming a training ground for a new generation of Burkina Faso's engineering workforce. However, it is important to separate verified facts from popular claims. Official sources confirm that the project is being led through the Faso Mêbo initiative with significant domestic participation. At the same time, there is no official evidence showing that every machine, construction material, or piece of equipment is produced entirely within Burkina Faso. Like most major infrastructure projects around the world, some specialized equipment and materials may still come through international supply chains. Rather than weakening the project's significance, this distinction makes its achievements more credible. The real story is not about complete isolation from global markets. It is about a country working to strengthen its own ability to plan, organize, and deliver increasingly complex infrastructure under national leadership. If the expressway succeeds, its greatest legacy may extend far beyond the road itself. It could leave Burkina Faso with a more experienced workforce, stronger technical institutions, and greater confidence to undertake even larger projects in the years ahead. In that respect, the expressway is not only an investment in transportation, but also an investment in the nation's future. While the construction of Burkina Faso's first expressway has captured international attention because of its scale, its greatest impact may ultimately be measured by the economic opportunities it creates. Throughout history, major transportation corridors have done far more than move vehicles from one place to another. They have connected businesses with customers, reduced the cost of trade, encouraged investment, and supported long-term national development. Burkina Faso hopes this project will achieve the same result. The expressway will connect Ouagadougou, the country's political and administrative capital, with Bobo-Dioulasso, its second largest city and most important commercial and industrial center. This route already carries a significant share of the nation's passenger traffic and freight transport. Agricultural products, manufactured goods, construction materials, and consumer products all travel between these two cities every day. By reducing travel times and improving road safety, the new highway could make transportation faster, more predictable, and less expensive for businesses across the country. The project is also generating economic activity long before the first vehicle uses the completed road. Large-scale infrastructure requires engineers, surveyors, machine operators, mechanics, truck drivers, electricians, security personnel, and administrative staff. Local companies supplying fuel, construction materials, food, maintenance services, and equipment support are also benefiting from the increased demand created during construction. Although official employment totals have not yet been fully published, infrastructure projects of this size typically create thousands of direct and indirect jobs over several years. The long-term opportunities may prove even more important. Better transportation can encourage manufacturers to expand production, attract investors looking for reliable logistics, and stimulate the growth of warehouses, industrial parks, and commercial centers along the corridor. Farmers may gain quicker access to urban markets, while transport companies could lower operating costs through shorter travel times and improved fuel efficiency. Still, experts emphasize that roads alone cannot transform an economy. Lasting success depends on consistent maintenance, effective public policies, and continued investment in agriculture, industry, education, and private enterprise. If those elements develop alongside the expressway, this project could become far more than a transportation upgrade. It could serve as the backbone of a stronger national economy, improving connectivity, creating new business opportunities, and supporting Burkina Faso's development for decades to come. Every major infrastructure project faces an important question after construction begins. Can the momentum be maintained until completion? For Burkina Faso's first expressway, this challenge may be just as significant as the engineering itself. Building more than 330 kilometers of modern highway requires not only skilled workers and heavy machinery, but also long-term planning, reliable funding, and consistent project management over several years. One of the biggest factors will be maintaining construction quality. A modern expressway is far more complex than laying asphalt across open land. Engineers must carefully prepare the foundation, install drainage systems capable of handling seasonal rainfall, construct bridges and overpasses where necessary, and ensure that every section meets strict safety standards. If any stage is rushed or completed below standard, repair costs can become far more expensive in the future. Financing also remains an important consideration. Large transportation projects often require continuous investment from start to finish. Construction materials, fuel, equipment, maintenance, and labor costs can change over time, especially during long projects. Effective financial management will therefore play a critical role in keeping work on schedule while maintaining the expected level of quality. Another challenge will begin after the expressway opens. Around the world, many highways perform well during their first years, but gradually deteriorate because maintenance is delayed or underfunded. Regular inspections, resurfacing, drainage maintenance, and bridge monitoring will be essential to preserve the road's condition. A well-maintained expressway can serve the country for decades, while neglected infrastructure can quickly lose many of its economic benefits. Despite these challenges, the project has already demonstrated that Burkina Faso is willing to pursue infrastructure on a scale rarely seen in its history. Early construction progress has generated optimism among many observers, although the most demanding phases still lie ahead. Success will ultimately depend not only on completing the highway but also on managing it responsibly for future generations. If these challenges are successfully addressed, Burkina Faso's first expressway could become more than a symbol of national ambition. It could stand as lasting evidence that careful planning, sustained commitment, and effective management are just as important as the construction itself in delivering transformational infrastructure. As construction continues, many observers are asking a broader question. Could Burkina Faso's first expressway become a model for future infrastructure across West Africa? While every country has different economic conditions and development priorities, the project is already attracting attention because it reflects a growing determination among several African nations to invest more heavily in transport networks that support long-term economic growth. Across the region, Inadequate road infrastructure remains one of the biggest obstacles to trade. Farmers often struggle to deliver crops quickly to urban markets. Manufacturers face higher transportation costs, while businesses encounter delays that reduce competitiveness. Modern highways can help address these problems by improving connectivity, reducing travel times, and creating more reliable logistics corridors between major cities. If Burkina Faso successfully completes its expressway on schedule and maintains high construction standards, the project could strengthen investor confidence. Domestic businesses may feel more willing to expand their operations, while regional companies could view Burkina Faso as a more attractive location for distribution centers and industrial investment. Better transportation also improves access to education, healthcare, tourism, and public services by making travel faster and safer for ordinary citizens. However, the true measure of success will not be the opening ceremony or the number of kilometers completed. The long-term value of the expressway will depend on how effectively it supports economic activity over the coming decades. Industrial growth, increased trade, rising employment, and continued maintenance will ultimately determine whether the project delivers the transformation many people expect. The expressway may also encourage future infrastructure planning within Burkina Faso itself. If the experience gained through this project strengthens local engineering expertise and institutional capacity, future highways, bridges, and transportation networks could be delivered more efficiently. Each successful project creates valuable knowledge that can be applied to the next. For that reason, Burkina Faso's first expressway represents more than a single construction achievement. It reflects an investment in the country's future development strategy. Whether viewed as an economic corridor, an engineering milestone, or a symbol of national ambition, its lasting impact will be measured not only by the road that is built today, but by the opportunities it creates for generations to come. Behind every major infrastructure project stands a leader whose vision helps shape its direction. In Burkina Faso, that figure is Captain Ibrahim Traoré. Since taking office, he has repeatedly emphasized that national development cannot rely solely on political speeches or short-term economic policies. Instead, he has argued that lasting progress requires investments in roads, energy, agriculture, and other forms of infrastructure that can strengthen the country's long-term productive capacity. The Ouagadougou to Bobo-Dioulasso Expressway has therefore become one of the most visible symbols of this broader development strategy. Supporters see the project as evidence that the government is willing to pursue ambitious national infrastructure despite economic and security challenges. They argue that improving transportation networks is essential for expanding trade, attracting investment, and creating opportunities for future generations. At the same time, analysts caution that infrastructure projects should ultimately be judged by measurable results rather than political symbolism. Completing a modern expressway is only the first step. The real test will come years later when economists and citizens evaluate whether the highway has successfully reduced transportation costs, encouraged private investment, improved regional trade, and supported higher economic growth. These outcomes will determine the project's lasting significance. The expressway also reflects a broader lesson seen in many developing countries. Successful infrastructure requires continuity. Roads of this scale are planned, financed, constructed, and maintained over many years. Their benefits depend on consistent policies that extend beyond any single administration. Long-term commitment, effective institutions, and responsible maintenance are just as important as the initial construction itself. Regardless of differing political opinions, there is little doubt that the expressway has become one of the most ambitious infrastructure projects undertaken in Burkina Faso's modern history. It represents a significant effort to improve national connectivity while expanding the country's engineering experience and technical capacity. As construction continues, the world will be watching not only to see when the highway is completed, but also how it influences Burkina Faso's economy in the years that follow. If the project delivers the improvements its supporters anticipate, It may become a lasting example of how strategic infrastructure can contribute to national development, economic resilience, and greater confidence in the country's future. When completed, Burkina Faso's first expressway will not simply shorten the journey between Ouagadougou and Bobo-Dioulasso. It has the potential to reshape how people, businesses, and investors view the country's future. Modern transportation infrastructure often creates effects that extend well beyond the road itself, influencing trade, urban development, tourism, and regional integration for decades. One area where the expressway could have a lasting impact is regional commerce. Burkina Faso sits at the heart of West Africa, sharing borders with 6 neighboring countries. Although it has no coastline, its economy depends heavily on efficient transport corridors that connect producers with ports and regional markets. Faster domestic transportation can improve the movement of agricultural products, manufactured goods, and imported supplies, making businesses more competitive while reducing delays throughout the supply chain. The project could also influence how cities develop. Improved highways often encourage the growth of logistics centers, industrial zones, residential communities, and commercial districts along major transportation routes. Businesses frequently establish warehouses and distribution facilities near reliable road networks because they can move goods more efficiently. Over time, these investments may create additional employment opportunities and stimulate economic activity in communities located between the country's 2 largest cities. For ordinary citizens, the benefits could be equally significant. Safer roads and shorter travel times allow families to reach hospitals, universities, government offices, and business centers more easily. Transport companies may operate more efficiently, while farmers could gain quicker access to larger markets where they can sell their products. Although these improvements may develop gradually, they often become some of the most valuable long-term outcomes of major infrastructure investments. Still, these opportunities depend on responsible management after construction ends. Continuous maintenance, effective transportation policies, and complementary investments in industry and agriculture will determine how much value the expressway ultimately creates. Infrastructure alone cannot transform a nation, but it can provide the foundation upon which future economic growth is built. As the project moves forward, Burkina Faso is not simply building a highway. It is investing in stronger national connectivity, greater economic resilience, and a future in which modern infrastructure plays an increasingly important role in supporting sustainable development across the country. As the expressway moves closer to completion, an even larger question begins to emerge. What does this project say about Burkina Faso's long-term future? For decades, international discussions about the country have often focused on security challenges, economic hardship, and political instability. Yet, major infrastructure projects have the ability to change those narratives by demonstrating a commitment to long-term development rather than short-term solutions. Around the world, countries that successfully transformed their economies rarely relied on a single policy or investment. Instead, they built transportation systems that connected cities, supported industry, and encouraged private enterprise. Reliable highways reduce the cost of doing business, improve access to markets, and make it easier for companies to invest with confidence. Burkina Faso's first expressway is designed with these same objectives in mind. The project's influence may extend well beyond transportation. Improved road networks can strengthen food distribution, support tourism, improve emergency response, and encourage educational and cultural exchanges between regions. Businesses benefit from more efficient logistics, while families gain safer and faster access to healthcare, universities, and employment opportunities. Over time, these improvements contribute to higher productivity and stronger national integration. There is also an important symbolic dimension. Large infrastructure projects often shape public confidence. When citizens see modern roads, bridges, and public works being completed, they gain visible evidence that long-term national development is possible. That confidence can encourage entrepreneurs to invest, inspire young professionals to build careers at home, and strengthen optimism about the country's future. Of course, the expressway alone cannot solve every economic challenge. Continued investment in agriculture, education, energy, healthcare, and industrial development will remain essential. Strong institutions, transparent management, and regular maintenance will determine whether the highway delivers lasting benefits for future generations. Infrastructure succeeds when it becomes part of a broader national development strategy rather than an isolated achievement. As Burkina Faso continues building its first expressway, the project stands as more than a modern transportation corridor. It reflects a vision of stronger connectivity, greater economic opportunity, and increased national confidence. Whether measured by trade, investment, employment, or regional development, the true legacy of this highway will be determined by the opportunities it creates long after the construction crews have completed their work. As Burkina Faso's first expressway gradually takes shape, it is becoming clear that this project represents far more than a new transportation route. It reflects a broader ambition to strengthen national infrastructure, improve economic connectivity, and create opportunities that could benefit future generations. Whether the highway ultimately fulfills every expectation remains to be seen, but its significance already extends beyond the construction site itself. The expressway has brought together several important elements that are essential for long-term development. It seeks to improve mobility between the country's two largest cities, support trade, encourage investment, and strengthen domestic engineering capacity through the Faso Mêbo initiative. At the same time, it highlights an important lesson shared by many successful infrastructure projects around the world. Building the road is only the beginning. Maintaining it, integrating it into wider economic planning, and ensuring that it serves businesses and communities for decades will determine its true value. For Ibrahim Traore's administration, the project has become one of the most visible examples of his development agenda. For supporters, it demonstrates a commitment to investing in national infrastructure despite difficult economic and security conditions. For observers, it offers an opportunity to evaluate how large public investments can contribute to long-term economic growth. Whatever perspective one takes, the expressway has already become an important chapter in Burkina Faso's modern development story. The years ahead will reveal the project's full impact. If managed effectively, it could encourage new industries, strengthen regional trade, improve access to essential services, and inspire future infrastructure investments across the country. More importantly, it could demonstrate that sustained planning and long-term commitment remain the foundation of meaningful national progress. If you enjoyed this story and want more balanced coverage of Africa's biggest infrastructure and development projects, be sure to subscribe and join us for future updates. Across African news, leaders and institutions such as the African Union, alongside countries including Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, continue shaping the future of West Africa and the Sahel. Figures including Ibrahim Traore, Assimi Goïta, and Abdourahmane Tiani remain at the center of many regional discussions, while the evolving relationship with France continues to influence the region's political and economic landscape. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video. We sincerely appreciate your time and support. Every video on this channel is carefully researched, thoughtfully written, and meticulously edited by our dedicated team. We don't rely on automated production or shortcuts to create our content. Every story, every visual, and every detail is crafted with genuine care, passion, and a commitment to bringing you meaningful, high-quality videos